Well, good evening. This is Keys, the K in Back Talk Bros, and Aaron and Gooch will be joining us here in a few minutes. But in the meantime, we're going to hit the intro, and then we're going to get into some by the numbers, and we'll recap Chiefs and Dolphins, and we'll get into your guys' questions and comments when Gooch and Aaron join us. So, going to go ahead and hit that.
Y'all ready for them Chiefs? Y'all ready for them Chiefs?
All right. We want to thank you guys for watching this episode of Back Talk. And I'm going to start right off here with changes in EPA by play type. And this is from 1999 to 2023 this season. And this chart here is showing how EPA per play is down throughout the league in both the run and the pass this season. This season is definitely, at least to this point in the season, is definitely a win for the defenses. And as you can see on there, the red is the pass, the bluish color there is the run. You can see how since 2020, that EPA per play has dropped down steadily each season. And at this point, has almost reached zero in the pass. And you can see for the run that it was never even up to zero. In 2000, let's say about 2007 or 8. And again, in like 2020, we've gotten close to negative 5/100ths EPA expected point added per play for the run, but it's peaked it has dropped just as much or just as well as the pass has. And so this is important for us, I think, especially as Chiefs fans. Someone had talked about how every quarterback that got a new contract or got a contract extension this offseason has not looked like themselves. And as we can see here, it's all across the league as it's defense time. And so it is what it is, but hey, at least at this point for us, a positive is that we have a good defense. And not only do we have a good defense, but on this one here is cash spending on defense this season and defensive expected points per play allowed. And so, as you can see here on the vertical column, right there, you have expected points per play allowed. And then here on our horizontal, we have 2023 defensive cash spending in millions. And in this case, the Chiefs are in a good place here. They're in the upper left quadrant here that's labeled not spending a lot and have good results. So we have the Chiefs defense. They're allowing around negative 1/10 of an EPA per play, and they're at right under $80 million in cash spending. This is not cap. This is cash spending right under there, about 75, 76, 77 or so. As you can see, that is the lowest amount of cash spending on defense in the good results quadrant, period. There is no team in the good results whether the left upper quadrant or the right upper quadrant, where all the good results are, that are spending less money than the Chiefs. The Chiefs also have the youngest, I'm going to say, snap adjusted defense in the NFL. Should be scary for the rest of the NFL for years to come. Granted, we have players that are going to be free agents next year, namely Chris Jones, L'Jarius Sneed, Nick Bolton, Willie Gay, I believe Drew Tranquil and Mike Edwards. So we're going to have some decisions to make. But at least at this point, the defense looks, the future for the defense looks bright. Cheapest for good results in the NFL there. Also in that quadrant, you'll see the Vikings, the Lions, and the Ravens. They're spending more money than the Chiefs by somewhere between $10 and $15 million more. The lowest cash spending team on there at under 60 million is the Los Angeles Rams. Their EPA per play allowed is just a tad bit above 0. You also have the Cardinals there, the Raiders. You can see all the teams there. The Raiders and Broncos, 2 other AFC West teams, are in that quadrant as well. And then the Chargers are spending a lot and getting bad results. And you can see them in that same quadrant right now. The Bengals are in there. The Bucks are in there, along with the Eagles and Bears and Bills and Dolphins and Packers. So interesting results. And of course, of all the teams in the NFL, the 49ers are spending the most amount of money at around $160 million in cash spending. They're getting good results, not as good as the Chiefs, and they're spending more than twice as much as the Chiefs are to achieve, at least to this point, worse results, but still good results. And of course, you can see the other teams in that quadrant as well. Next up, we have NFL defensive 3-and-out rate in 2023. This is the 3-and-out rates include any first series of a drive that results in a turnover or failure to get a first down or touchdown. So as we can see here, the Chiefs are right here, sandwiched between the Rams and the Bengals at 31%. 31% third and out rate in the NFL for the defense. The best rate on there at 57% is the Browns, followed by the Saints, Jets, Patriots, and Jags. You want to look for the other AFC West teams. We have the Raiders at 34%, Chargers at 29%, and looks like, is that the Broncos there dead last at 17%, I believe. I believe that's the Broncos. Next up for us, then, and get them loaded on here. Think I got them ready. Or not. We'll have them coming here, and you guys can go ahead and put your comments and your questions in the chat. As I said, Aaron and Gooch will be with us here in a few moments. as we wait for them, we'll continue to look at the by the numbers here. Let me pull these up. Our next one is quarterback EPA versus man end zone. So on the bottom here, we have EPA versus man. Going vertically, we have EPA versus zone. And I know we're so used to Patrick Mahomes being up in the upper right hand corner by himself. But this year, obviously, the offense is struggling. We got some changes receiver, offensive line, and Mahomes is more at least towards zone. EPA versus zone is right there, just a little bit above 0. So is what it is. But yeah. And then versus man, you can see he's right there, uh, fourth on this list behind Anthony Richardson, um, PJ Walker, and Dak Prescott. I don't know what the cutoff is for sample size here, but I would think it says minimum 100 dropbacks. I would think as the season goes off, we're going to see these two probably not make the cut anymore. Um, Same with Kirk Cousins here as well. But, I mean, there's an interesting grouping right in here. And we'll see how things progress as the season goes on. But, from right now, the EPA isn't really there against zone. It's there against man. It's not where we're used to seeing Mahomes live on a quadrant, though. Let's go ahead and look at another one here. NFL team tiers. This is weeks 5 through 9. Offensive EPA per play. And then vertically, we have the defensive EPA per play. Negative numbers on defense are better. So the top part here on our vertical axis is going to be the better part. Offensive, obviously, the higher the positive number, the better the offense. So your upper right quadrant is going to be your teams or tiers that are the best on both offense and defense. And so, as you'll see here, that basically puts us right now with Ravens and Bengals. And then going from there, we can we can we can look at the Saints and Jags. Got the Eagles over here. Chiefs are hiding behind the Vikings. We'll see what happens with the Vikings, uh, both offensively and defensively. I still believe as the defense learns Flores' system, that defense is only going to get stronger. But it'll be interesting to see what the offense does, minus Kirk Cousins, and then now I believe Cam Akers is done for the rest of the season as well. You can see an interesting grouping here with the Bears and Steelers and Chargers and Lions and Dolphins kind of in here in that kind of group as well. Okay, then our next up. Oh, we already did that one. Sorry about that. All right, I know we haven't done this one, so look at this if you can read it. If not, it's a shame because it's a list of the most versatile defensive players through the first 9 weeks here. And you'll notice that there, if you can see it, you'll notice that there is a Chief at every level of the second and third level. We have a safety on here, and Justin Reed is the third most versatile safety by this metric. Leo Chanel is the fourth most versatile linebacker in the NFL, according to this. And Trent McDuffie, ding, 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 is number one for cornerbacks. And so this one's kind of pretty cool. You can understand why I wanted to show you guys that. I think I have a few more on here, but I'm not necessarily going to go through and try to fight to find them all. Maybe I can do one more and then we will move on. So if I can find this right one, I think this is it. Okay, 2023 quarterback decision making and execution, expected points added. So at the bottom here we have the XEPA from quarterback decision, and then vertically here we have the realized EPA, which is actual expected points added minus predicted expected points added. And again, here we can kind of see Mahomes from his decision making is right there. You have Lamar here, and I think I got to remove really quick. Let me remove the logo because we have Brock Purdy hiding up here under our logo in the Patrick Mahomes spot. So, and then even CJ Stroud here. So, realized EPA, Mahomes is hovering right there at just under 0.1 EPA, along there with Stafford and Burrow and even Garoppolo, you can see. But on this side, he's third to Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson. So that is what it is. But, just some interesting looks as we head into the bye week, kind of the quarterback play and the defensive play. And we'll see how things go with that, guys. And, I'm going to take a second here to check with Gooch and Aaron. Looks like they should be joining us at any moment here. But anyway, that concludes by the numbers. And we're going to start talking football. So as we wait for Gooch and Aaron, like I said, drop your comments, your questions for us in there. And I'm going to start talking about my recap of the Chiefs and Dolphins after I take a drink of water here. So this was kind of an interesting game offensively, in that if I could describe it in one way, it would be that it seemed like the first drive, which is the scripted Andy's, scripted plays, at least the first drive, and then I want to say a drive or two in the fourth quarter, maybe. The offense looked like the offense that we saw against the Chargers a few weeks ago. And then for a huge stretch of this game, the offense looked like the offense that we saw play the Broncos last week. not totally surprising here. Vic Fangio was brought in as the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins this offseason. Vic Fangio, very familiar with the Chiefs, especially, during his tenure as head coach of the Denver Broncos. Uh, and so I'm not really that surprised that the Dolphins defense was able to make adjustments as quickly as they were, because Vic Fangio, this is almost defensive wise for the Dolphins, or, offensively for the Chiefs. In that way, this is kind of similar as playing a division rival, because Fangio is that familiar with the Chiefs offense, that familiar with what uh, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes can do and what they want to do. And, this is an interesting one. Um, I think it goes without saying that we know that the receivers uh, have some work to do. We know that the coaching staff has some things to figure out there during the bye week. Mahomes and the receivers have some things to figure out during the bye week. Um, the offensive line and Andy Heck have some things to figure out during the bye week, especially the way that, and I don't think it's just the Chiefs. I think all in all in the NFL right now, uh, offensive lines are getting attacked with stunts and just creative ways that the defense right now has the upper hand. Um, Overall in the NFL, like we showed here at the beginning of the show, when we looked at how passing and running EPA per play has fallen since 2020. But, it remains to be seen. Like for me, I'm a big show me guy. I got to see what the Chiefs do coming out of the bye week. And to some part of that, there still has to be patience involved, because this is a Super Bowl rematch that we're coming up to off of the bye. So, I think there has to be a few weeks sample size um past that, but we have to see some things that are different on the offense. Gooch is repping the evil empire here. I don't know why we're showing off baseball hats on a football show, but I can set up next week on my baseball wall if you'd like me to do that instead of my football wall, Gooch.
Well, first of all, sorry I'm late, but I'm glad to be here. You know the talent likes to make an entrance, but I come in and I see Dan talking about Lamar. Herbert is better than Lamar. So why we have to start the show for me with these blasphemous comments, I don't know. But Dan, I got something for you, brother. My top 10. As soon as this stream is over, I'm going to have it uploaded for Keys to work his magic. And then, just because you asked me, I'm doing all 32. I'm working on the 32. Like, while we're going to have this stream, I'm working on it. So I can put that out right after. Like, and then
That sounds like hell.
I'll show you what a good 32 is, bro.
Why don't you just break the last 22 into like tiers?
Ooh, I can do that.
I think you get to a point where you're arguing, you or someone else is going to argue. These 4 or 5 teams, you could basically argue and flip flop them either way. So to me, I think I would just put them into tiers.
That's a good idea. Then
you do what you want, though.
Tiers. That's good. That's good. I can do that. NFL tiers. The talents tiers. The real ones. You know what I'm saying?
That works. That's very alliterative.
I like that.
Care to explain why Herbert is better than Lamar? I mean, honestly, I think the only thing that I could argue is better than Lamar is the arm. I mean, the combination of strength and accuracy, I think, is about the only thing I could argue is better than Lamar. And this is coming from a guy who, likes to call him a throwing running back. But I mean, it's been interesting. Lamar has been throwing with a lot of different arm angles this season and he's been bending the ball. He's been throwing some high velocity curveballs. He's kind of been doing it. This is, I think as Gooch said in Dan's chat, was it last night? This is the first season we're seeing Lamar with an offensive coordinator who isn't just power run, power run, power run. And that's not to insult Greg Roman because, I thought Roman was a great offensive coordinator. To me, Roman's problem became when they would be playing a team like the Chiefs with Mahomes or in the playoffs, and he would get it in his mind that Lamar needed to like show that he was better than those guys, and you would have Mahomes and Lamar would have like 40 pass attempts for no reason when what they were doing in the run game was working. At least for me right now, that's what I would say. With Herbert, I mean, the reality is that Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, right? It's Mike Williams, are two beasts when he can stay healthy, when either of them can stay healthy. And, Herbert was hamstrung as well. That's true. He was hamstrung with Joe Lombardi. And then, as we already talked about, the way NFL defenses are playing right now, it's going to make quarterbacks look worse if, they're not basically going shorter at this point in time. But, I think that Herbert, even with that, is helped out way more. I've been arguing for a couple of years now that I wanted Mahomes to get receivers like Herbert has, receivers like Burrow has, because those two guys have guys that, not only can you stretch the field horizontally or vertically, but straight up vertically. And to me, that's the biggest difference is Herbert gets saved by those guys. He still has a great arm with great accuracy, but he gets saved statistically from Keenan Allen. And we all saw that. I think we all saw that hell of a catch that he made the other night on a not so great throw by Herbert. And we've all seen what Mike can do. And so to me, that's the biggest difference. Those two guys, they can just straight up go up and get it. And they have some of the best hands I've ever seen, even on sideline catches. And so
I still watch highlights of that catch and can't figure out how he brought it in.
It's insane. And we've seen Mike Williams make like sideline catches that you're like, nah, that's not a catch. That's not a catch. But Aaron says push off. I know so with Burrow's receivers. I know so with Hurts's receivers. I don't think I ever watched Allen or Williams enough to know if they're pushing off. But if Gooch, you have something to say on that one, you can.
Well, no, I was just gonna say like nobody. Here's the thing: Lamar was a running back who could throw when he came in, and Roman's offense fit that. Like you only had to throw a few times, and the reads were simple. But Herbert has been declared a generational talent since he started, and I mean I don't mean to knock him. He's good. He's got the arm. He's the prototypical quarterback, but they haven't made the playoffs yet. And generational great quarterbacks overcome a lot of stuff. I mean, winning is winning. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it should be a quarterback stat for real, but if that is the main position on the football field and you're considered a generational talent, why are all the other generational QBs, Mahomes, Burrow, nobody considered Hurts one, Lamar's been to the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence has been to the playoffs. Josh Allen has been to the playoffs. You're the only one that everybody's like, oh, this could be a rivalry for Mahomes, and y'all can't win. And you can't always blame the coaching because Andy Reid still has time management issues and play calling issues, and we still manage to win. Like, so it's just.
I think it's a little bit of both, though. Like, if you look at Chiefs and Chargers games, how many Chiefs and Chargers games end with the Chargers offense on the field? Those games they're basically in, and especially with enough time to really matriculate the ball down the field. Like, those games are generally ending with Brandon Staley's decisions leading to the Chiefs offense, being on the field the last minute or two or so, or three, and it really coming down to Herbert not having a whole lot of time. But you know what? I don't know. I think it's kind of like at this point, I don't really care. I think that they're pretty close. Lamar's athleticism and running ability and scrambling ability on top of it, plus what he's added this year. Like, you can't just say that Odell and who is it, Zay Flowers, like that they're the cause of some of the stuff he's doing with different arm angles, But yeah, I think it's kind of like, I don't know. Let's see what happens the rest of the season.
Oh yeah, like
Um,
I get that, and if they can beat the Lions, then I might have something different. But another thing you have to look at, Dan the man, my guy, since you and Keys were agreeing a lot the last couple of days. Um, during this season, Herbert has been on the field for the final drives and stuff, and he's thrown interceptions and not gotten it done. And that's not, what's their head coach name?
Brandon Staley.
That's not Staley's fault because Kellen Moore is calling them plays. And I hate to say it, but teams don't fear Herbert. But when Lamar drops back, a lot of teams fear Lamar because if he takes off and he's got running room, like aside from Mahomes, who's probably the most efficient late game runner in the game, if Lamar takes off with straight line, like people fear that. You know what I'm saying? Herbert hasn't. He's good. He might even be great, but he hasn't shown that he can win in the end. And even though Lamar has only been to one or two playoffs games and haven't won them, he's made the playoffs, and that's with Greg Roman and his pedestrian run power offense. I mean, I'm just saying, in my opinion, it's just mine.
I mean, it was still a good offense, though. It was the problem back then was when he was trying to he would start calling pass plays after pass plays and trying to make Lamar have 35, 40 attempts and go head to head with Mahomes or other quarterbacks. But, I don't think the make the playoff thing is that big of a deal because you can kind of give, if you want to go there, you can kind of give Herbert credit for it. It's not his fault that Brandon Staley called a timeout when the Raiders were trying to kneel down and let them and the Chargers both go into the playoffs. Like, they had the playoff berth right there, and then Staley called the timeout. So, I mean, if you want to go by playoff berths, I mean, technically you could give Herbert one. It was literally his coach calling that timeout that stopped it. But anyway, Dan said, how impressed are you with Miami after the game? Gooch, you want to talk about this one first, or you want me to start talking?
Absolutely, I got you. I'm not. Um, well, that's a lie. They're what, 6-3? The problem is, I think you still have to be impressed. Their offense is innovative. They do a lot of things well. And I think Spagnuolo just had a better game plan. I think he planned for the Dolphins as if he was playing against our offense a couple years ago. And it was just better ran. Um, I still think Miami's a playoff team, or it could be, as long as they don't go on some kind of like losing streak. And let's face it, they're still a track team on grass. You know what happens when they got to go to Buffalo in December and stuff like that? I don't know, but I mean they're still not a bad team. But I appreciate Tyreek for giving us that work.
You.
Up,
No
Paul?
way. What's up, brother?
Not a whole lot. Sorry, it's hard to keep track of what day it is. Working overnights.
Yeah, I can imagine. Dan and everyone out there, make sure you go check out Dan Talks Football, where Dan talks football Tuesday nights and Friday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time, and usually is live streaming the Chiefs game whenever that is. And but anyway, Aaron, you're in here, so we're gonna let you tackle now Dan's question. How impressed are you with Miami after the game?
What do you mean? Like, did they keep talking after the game?
Like, how impressed are you with the Dolphins as a team now that the game is over?
Not as much. Our defense shut them down pretty well. They had a short field on one of their touchdowns, and I don't know. I think it speaks more to our defense than them. But they were the highest powered offense before that.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to echo you guys with that. I mean, honestly, um, I wasn't necessarily real high on them defensively. Potential, yes, with Vic Fangio as defensive coordinator. And this was the first game that Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard have played together this season. They definitely have some pieces on the defense. Um, and, when you see, of course, they're both not exactly the same players that they were. But when you still see those names and you think about how the Chiefs offense has struggled, if you're like me, you might think, oh boy, here we go. You have those two guys as cornerbacks, and we have receivers who can't get open. How are we going to score any points? And yet we did get 14 points on there. And then, the Dolphins offense, I'm with you guys. Like, I'm less impressed because I was really afraid that Tyreek and Jalen Waddle were just going to run, all over our secondary and do whatever they wanted, and get wide open multiple times for touchdowns. And that didn't happen. And so, for either one of them. So I'm really impressed with what the defense did. We didn't have Nick Bolton in the game. And, the running game there at a certain point looked a little scary, the run defense. When they opened it up in the second half and they started going play action, they were having some success though. And it's interesting, be interested in what you guys think, because this isn't normally what we would expect to see from a team we might game plan wise for a team that we might expect to see in the playoffs, right? Like, it's not really Andy and Spags' way to show like their A game plan when they think they might, play a team again in the playoffs. But the more I think about it, the more I think is that they realized defensively they were going to have to help, the offense as it was. What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, it was a great game plan by Spags. He did a lot of blitzing, a lot of creative blitzing
Right.
at the perfect times.
Corner pressure right from Tua's side. It's interesting because you can get the next gen stats and stuff and see where Tua likes to throw. You can look to see his accuracy, what are the spots of the field that he likes to throw, what are the spots he's good at throwing, and theoretically a defensive coordinator should, be able to make sure that all those holes are plugged up and you make them hold on the ball longer, which is what the Chiefs ended up doing. Tua came into this game with the fastest release time, right around 2 seconds, just a little bit over 2 seconds. And I believe what I heard in this game, it was right around 2.5 seconds. So they were making him hold the ball longer than he has on average this whole season. So we
I
were
think it was 2.99 is
That
what he
is
was doing in this game.
that's one of the things that I did. Like, I don't think this was Spags' A game. I think the whole point was because he was bringing specific pressures. Like, I watched the game again, and he was bringing, like, his pressures were coming, but it was coming like specifically on the side that Tua likes to throw the ball. There wasn't a lot of backside rushes. Like, he was bringing them all in his face to kind of throw him off. And I think that as he's going, like, if you think about it, we call out the same people all the time on defense, but that defensive secondary now is full of people who can play every position in that secondary. Like, Tamari Connor was in there. He can play corner, he can play safety. Mike Edwards can obviously do that. I mean, you can move all those guys around. So even if we did play him once now, the second time we play around, he can move different pieces and even do something different. Like, these guys, aside from Mike Edwards and Tamari Connor, they're 2 years into a system that they now have pretty much mastered. You know what I'm saying? So now Spags can sit back and just, without Bolton, think about when Bolton comes back and he shores
right.
up that run defense a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
The
Tranquil
team's
just
gonna
doesn't
be
have the
scared.
power he does.
Right, but
I
Tranquil
love
is
them in the
better.
passing game, though. Him and
He's
Willie in the passing game.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I think running that kind of 4-3-3-4 hybrid that we've been running has been beneficial because we've got all those linebackers. We can do so much with all of them. You know what I'm saying? And we're what, 9 weeks in, going into week 10, and the Chiefs have the third best defense in the NFL behind Baltimore and Cleveland.
How crazy is that to hear?
Right? Right? Like, we as Chiefs fans have been saying if we could just get a top 15 defense, we'd be scary. We got a top 3, and the offense is still figuring themselves out.
And
It's
special teams in the return game.
which now I think that's a lot of McCole, and I'm not sure how much. Like, catching the ball at the one, I'm like, come on, cuh. You know better than that. You know what I'm saying? And I get that Tobe is like, if you have room, take it. There has to be a cutoff. Like,
Right.
inside the 10, you've got to let it go. You know, and
Well, Gooch, what's
I'm
that
gonna
saying
bring.
you have? If every
Go ahead.
person you see is a
Oh yeah. Hey. Uh, oh, the jackass. Yeah.
at some point we
Uh,
got to look at the defensive or the special teams coordinator when every return man has the same issues. At some point we got to look at the special teams coordinator.
here's another thing with the offense. We keep saying the offense is going to figure it out. What if it's Nagy? What if Nagy is the problem? because the one thing that everybody universally says is Andy calls plays. Okay, that's great. But the offensive and defensive coordinator set up the game plan. So what if Nagy just can't game plan?
Well, we got a touchdown on the first drive.
Yeah,
That's
say,
usually what they've game planned.
That's the scripted 15, though. I'm talking about past that. Like we did the first touchdown in 7 plays, probably 6, because one of them I'm sure they repeated, which means you still got 8 scripted plays you didn't use, which probably accounts for moving it down the second time and getting the 14. But after that, you can't tell me that offense stalled. If you watch the game, there are people that are wide open. So is that Mahomes?
Could be trust.
I mean, I think it comes back to about 15 different factors. And it's like the offense in general needs to get everything cleared up. I'm not going to be a blame Nagy guy in the same way that I don't think it's fair to blame Bieniemy. Like I'm not gonna give either credit for success or failure because at the end of the day, it's always Andy, and we've talked about this every year. There are how many games do we have where we had periods like this last year, the year before? Even when we had Tyreek, the second half of the Bengals game, there are periods where the offense disappears for whole drives or whole quarters or whole halves of the game. Even throughout the season, we've had, parts of seasons where the offense has disappeared for multiple games at a time. Once again, there's one common denominator there on the coaching staff, and that's Andy. The other common denominator is the quarterback. So, I mean, you want to talk about, it's like pick one, but I think it's so many factors right now because the offensive line doesn't look, the offensive line hasn't looked great. We're not picking up stunts the way we should be. Players are on the offensive line. It just seems really out of sync. And I understand you have 2 new offensive tackles, but, there seems to be a disconnect all around on the offensive line, and the run blocking hasn't even looked that great. Like guys were used to looking good, both pass blocking and run blocking this season have not looked as good as they have in years past. And so, it really seems like it's just a multitude of factors all the way around. And I don't know how you blame Nagy for that part of it. And it's not Nagy's fault that Andy put a rookie wide receiver coach to coach a bunch of young receivers. Like, I think everybody has to take blame. Everybody has to take accountability, and everybody needs to tighten everything up. That's my answer. Everything.
I can't disagree with that.
Gooch can.
They need to get back to basics.
Well, I mean, that's what you hope that happens each bye week, but I don't know about you guys, but it seems like we have this kind of discussion. Obviously it's different because we've had more talent, like visibly more talent, from the wide receivers each of these seasons. Like I said, we were doing this with Tyreek. We had Tyreek and Travis in that Bengals game, right? We had better receivers all around, and we were still having moments like this where Andy, it didn't matter who the offensive coordinator was. You still had Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and they still couldn't figure out what the hell to do. So I just think that blaming Matt Nagy or Eric Bieniemy, people are afraid to blame the real problem, the common denominator.
I'm not afraid to blame Andy Reid. I have almost broken several TVs on his timeouts and stuff like that. So I am not the biggest Andy Reid supporter. I'm just saying, like, I'm also thinking on both sides of the coin. Like, if Andy's going to retire, if Nagy's going to stay and he's the head coach in waiting, which I really think he is, unless he gets another job. Like Andy could be relinquishing more to see how he does, and then Andy's just calling plays off of, you know, I mean, these are things that could happen. Am I inside? No, but like Andy's, how much longer do you think he's gonna, even with Mahomes in his prime, at some point he's gonna want to spend time with his supermodel wife, as he calls her. You know what I'm saying? And with his grandkids and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't say this is less talent. I think Rashee Rice is more talented than Juju. And if that's the role that he's going to play, I think he's doing well. I'm really disappointed in Sky. And what the hell happened to Kadarius? Hi, Hannah. And what the hell happened to Kadarius Toney? Like, that was supposed to be our number one. He's not even really playing that much.
I think Sky played better in this game than he has the rest of the season.
MVS has forgotten how to catch balls that are contested. I mean, it's just like this was the whole point. And I think another big problem with the offense is, yeah, Kelsey has had these decent games, and we're not going to say it's because you know who was in the stands. But the one thing we've been saying for years, even when we were fooling with RGR, is what's going to happen when someone makes a concerted effort to take Travis out of the game. You know what I'm saying?
You know it was going to happen too.
Now the problem is Mahomes is running around and he's still just looking for Travis. And when he's running around and these guys are wide open, because now Travis has been his safety net for so long, he doesn't put his eyes. In the beginning, in the early parts of his career, when he was running around, Travis was still there, but he was taking more shots because other guys were open, even to Mr. Run Backwards himself, DeMarcus Robinson. He was chucking him the ball. Now he's like running and primarily looking for Kelsey and nobody else. If you go back and look, there were several times where the other receivers were wide open because they were ready to converge on Kelsey. You know what I'm saying? And obviously it's the bye week and I'm sure they're going to look at it. I'm just saying, like, that worries me going into the last 8 games. And you got to hold off Lamar, which I'm saying that, but that division is going to beat itself up over the next 8 weeks.
With the bye, they do seem to self-scout and correct a lot.
And they come right out of it with the Eagles on Monday night.
So, yeah, they better.
Yeah. Now,
they want to win this game.
This Eagles team isn't the Super Bowl Eagles.
No.
Like, this Eagles team can be had. The problem is that their defensive line has seemed to have gotten better. And our tackles, I mean, I blame the Chiefs for this take right here. Never in my chiefdom would I be sad that Orlando Brown Jr. is gone at this present time and that Andrew Wiley is gone, because now we are chipping on both tackles. Like, we are helping blocks on both tackles with McKinnon on the right and a receiver on the left. And that's taking people out of the play. I mean, it's just, I hope they fix it.
We were actually doing that a lot with both of those guys. So, I mean, it's not like it's anything new.
We usually
not like in the hat, Gooch.
We only did one. We would normally help Orlando.
No, if you go back and watch the Super Bowl and other games, it was both of them.
Thank you.
You're not liking the hat?
No.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, and I think I talked about this. I think it was in a previous video, like way back in January or February, or on Twitter or something. You know, talking about the things that Andy would do to help out both Orlando and Andrew. and that's both, chipping. It's both,
Yeah,
I
but
forget the word that they use, but, they would have Travis and Noah on both sides, on either side of them. And the whole purpose was they forced the edge rushers to have to run through or around Travis or Noah, or they would at least have to hesitate and let those guys pass them first, out of fear that when they were engaging in Orlando or Wiley, that whichever tight end it was, might take a shot at them from the side. So they would have to slow play it. There were a lot of things that Andy did, but they helped out both of those guys a lot last year. And especially in the Super Bowl, there were a lot of plays, obviously, understandably so. Second most sacks, from that defensive line in NFL history, was it? So, I mean, it's not without merit, but to kind of go to that, I do have this here, Gooch. Unit strength. This is from ESPN and PFF. So you have pass protection on offense and run blocking on offense. And then you have pass rush defense and run defense. You can see for the pass, Chiefs are all the way up here with their PFF grade and their win rate for ESPN. So they're still getting pretty high grades there. Although it's, there's a huge pack of teams there, but the run blocking is all the way down here. It's atrocious. I still think this is a little higher than what I expected, but maybe that's because we're only remembering the plays where there's miscommunication on stunts and they're getting free runners at Mahomes. But they definitely have a lot that they need to clean up. I think we're all in agreement on that they have a lot that they need to clean up. And again,
Absolutely.
that's what the bye week is for. And if they don't use it properly, I'm going to be disappointed. Like, you got to come out with better run and pass blocking.
Agreed. I want to say the game before he wasn't getting touched though. I don't know what the deal was this game, but they were blitzing a lot. I think that
Yeah.
had something to do with it. It seemed like every play. But yeah, you got to do stuff to pick that up, and Mahomes typically recognizes the blitzes and calls where to block. What do you think, Gooch? You get a phone call?
I'm with you guys. Yeah, I'm trying to keep everything quick because they're starting to bother me. What are you doing? What do you want? You didn't come by the store today. No stuff. I'm with my boys right now. Do you need something? No. We're all right here. Then why are you calling me?
Just want your presence.
Yeah. Gooch is the
I'm a,
Travis
I'm
to
a
the
calming
scores.
presence.
He's the Travis. But
Better looking, but still.
Is Hannah talking to me?
Oh,
I doubt it.
hey, Anna.
She might be talking to Dan. That's Dan's catchphrase.
Is it because he's so clean he takes so many showers?
Do you guys have your own superstitions?
I don't know.
I find people's superstitions to be fascinating. So, like, I'm not making fun of Dan. I just, like, for me, it's like it'll be my hand position. if I'm watching the game, I might be sitting there and I have my hands like in some way, and something good happens. I'm like, all right, keep that hand position, you know. And then if I lose it, I'm like, oh no, how did I have my hands?
I was being superstitious about Taylor being at the games. I'm a little angry now.
Travis is going to
Put
have
your
to get a
tour on
tattoo.
hold. Something. wear a scarf or something. I don't know. It's not that cold yet, but
Like in his helmet, just have it wrapped around him,
something.
looking like Tranquil with that thing he has around his neck.
Wrap it around his arm.
You don't have to worry
Like the
about
old
him.
wrestlers.
I'm not around Taylor that much, so don't worry.
I'm going to say I don't prefer blondes.
Oh snap!
Ugh.
I don't think I have any superstitions. No.
I
No.
can't think of any.
That's because I know people who are like, if they were standing for like the second quarter, like they like won't sit down until like this and that happens or whatever. If they went to go grab a beer from the fridge and something great happened, and they're like, every time the Chiefs have the ball, they go back to get a beer and hope something good happens. I'm not that guy.
Yeah, you know what, Gooch? I
My,
think you probably move your hat. It's probably how you have your hat.
my superstition is moving everything heavy away from me so I don't throw it at the TV when I get pissed.
That's a good idea. That's just common sense. Or
I
it should
haven't
be,
been
maybe.
I haven't been there in a few years, but I was looking for the one. I had something on Twitter, and I don't think I found it. But the two things that always get me are like some of Pat's decision making and um, some of Andy's play calls. I don't think this is
The play
all right.
calling was not great.
Here, I think I found it. This one justified me. As Mrs. Keys can testify into the chat, I have been known to question a certain person's manhood on multiple occasions, and so happen to have here the analytics to prove my case. Upper left quadrant is by the books with a conservative lean, and that is in terms of going for it in go situations. So the analytics say you should go in this situation, the percentage of the time, and then as we go horizontally there, go in toss-up situations. So 50-50 could go either way. The analytics say, it's a toss-up, right? So as you get up to the top right quadrant there where the Eagles are in the Mahomes position that we're so used to seeing Mahomes on any quarterback graph, that's the by the books and an aggressive lean towards it.
I
So
hate to interrupt this for a second. I'm sorry. I just want those out. Dan wants to come on, so can we send him an invite and then you can continue this?
Hey, yeah, if one of you guys want to send him the link that I copied and sent you guys in text.
That has to be Aaron because I'm the talent for a reason.
Let me see what I can do.
I'm barely on here. You know what I'm saying? Myself. Like I can't send nobody else.
Let's see. Yeah, give me a second here. I should be able to.
I'm doing
Dan,
it.
I hope your story is about how you can't wait for my talents top 10 and talents tiers and ready to explain why you switched to the dark side and realize that Lamar is better than Herbert. I'm just saying.
But while we wait,
come in. Don't be scared.
I think
Dan.
I did it.
I put it in the chat, I think, so he can click on that. But while we're waiting for him,
whatever you call Twitter now.
While we're waiting for him here, If you see the Buccaneers logo here on your screen, the Chiefs are right behind that.
And what is
Hey,
that
what do
again?
you know? Oops.
Oh, we both added them.
And what is that?
Did you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Hey,
you.
Dan.
Okay. Listen, I had to tell you this story because you guys mentioned what's wrong with Cardarius Tony, right? I can't give the specifics, but a buddy of mine called me today and he goes, "You're not going to believe this." And I said, "What?" Cardarius Tony drives over to Missouri every couple of weeks and buys the maximum amount of marijuana possible at a Pacific weed store, and he spends over $3,000 every 3 weeks like clockwork. And I was like, I can't give the specifics, but I 1,000% believe the story, and I was just floored. And I can't, like I said, I'm leaving out some specifics. I can't give the information away, but I 1,000% believe it. And I'm like, that just makes sense. No
I'm gonna.
wonder he's screwing up. I mean, I back in the day, I know Keith thinks I do it now, but back in the day, I smoked marijuana. 3,000 every 3 weeks. I know you in the NFL, but that is just an ass load of weed. I'm guessing it's the top of the line, but you mentioned what's wrong with Cardarius Tony. I just heard this story from my buddy a couple hours ago. So you got inside information. What's wrong with Cardarius Tony? The dude high as fuck. That's what his damn problem is. Lay off the damn weed, Tony. But I had to share this story with you guys. I'm going to share it on my own show. I missed out bits and pieces because, as you can see here, I'm about ready to get on to work. But I had to share this story with you that it's like clockwork because there's rules and regulations. He drives over. It's only legal in Missouri. It just became legal. So you can only buy a set amount. He buys the maximum amount, and then just every couple weeks, it's like a process. My buddy told me this. I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" So
I'm gonna guess high anxiety disorder.
Yeah. It's for anxiety. That's exactly what it is. You know,
If he just stays off of Twitter, that would probably solve itself. But now, how do we know your mom's not the source, Dan? Because I seem to recall you telling us about her buying a bunch of vases.
So this is also another true story. God bless my mom. She's the best human being on the planet. So I'm assuming they have 7-Eleven stores out where you're at. But anyway, they have a 7-Eleven store in a place called Blue Springs. Aaron's familiar with Blue Springs. Aaron knows exactly.
It's across the street from me, pretty much.
Okay. So my mom goes into 7-Eleven. She has no idea what it is. And she goes, so she bought me some incense for some reason or another. She thought I liked incense, and she goes,
Incense is what we're calling it
From
now.
back in the day.
So she goes, Phil, it was really weird. They had all these weird vases. I couldn't figure it out. They had these weird stems on the end. I had no idea what these were, and I just had to bite my tongue.
To add water.
Best human being on the planet, but like I just had to bite my tongue. It's like, Mom, I love you, but yeah, those are weird bases. I completely agree with you. And hey, listen, thanks for letting me come on and tell the story. I'm gonna listen here, but I'm at work, so I just had to pop on real quick. I'm gonna share this same story on my own show Friday, but when I heard it, I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" And I just wanted to share with you guys. So that's the problem with Cardarius Tony. The guy's high as balls. So, hey, thanks for letting me on, man. I'll get out of here just to listen here.
We appreciate it, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
So that was Dan Talks Football with an exclusive. And can I start with, if the offense is hard for a vet like Juju, who's not completely right in his head, what the hell is it doing to Tony? And he's getting that much substance at one look. Can you just stay off the weed for 18 weeks? 20 weeks max?
I mean,
drug test you in the off season, and all you need is 30 days to get it out. And you can't just, I need weed.
I got two things to say right now. One, if he gets suspended, it's all Dan and his mom's fault for breaking that story. Two, if we're saying that Tony, with the talent he has and everything, is the reason he's not playing, then how the hell is McCool playing? Like, he's playing like a guy who's hanging out with Snoop and Cheech and Chong all day.
He may be.
Hey,
but he's still getting to play.
Hey, Hannah Banana, look, I know where you guys are, and I have a friend who specializes in
bases.
He has a green thumb. I can send them out for you so you can, free of charge, just because I got connections out that way.
All right, I've probably been way too
hard.
hard.
I got you guys covered.
I've probably been way too hard on Connor Embry, but I want to hear what you guys think. Am I being too hard on him as a guy who played running back for University of Kansas and I believe was like a quality control coach or assistant last year, and then gets the typical Andy promotion to wide receivers coach this year? Am I just being too hard on him, or is there any merit to that? When we look at the defensive staff, we have Joe Cullen, who has a stellar reputation that precedes him, was a former defensive coordinator himself. Brandon Staley, who was a distinguished defensive line coach with the Patriots for all those years. And Dave Merritt and Sam Madison, their work speaks volumes for themselves. Sam's now back with the Dolphins, but like when you look at the defensive coaching staff, it is stacked. Like Spags has it stacked. He's not bringing guys in to try to build them up, like Andy is with the offense. Obviously, Andy Heck, is an established guy. Tom Melvin, I think, right, is the tight ends coach, is an established guy. But then it seems like they fill in every other position on offense to try to, and again, it's not a negative on Andy that he likes to, give people their opportunities and give them, more responsibility as they prove themselves. But it's still like night and day difference when you have, like, we have a lot of young guys on the defensive side. Like, if Spags was trying to grow coaches instead of having that side filled with, the talented coaches he does, like, wouldn't that make a difference? And on offense, when we have so many young receivers, like, what's the plan there? And, to what extent do we put some blame on having a first time and rookie wide receiver coach?
I don't know. I haven't thought of anything of our coordinators in the wide receiver room pretty much ever. We haven't developed people the way I've liked, but Rice seems to be coming along. But how much of that is himself compared to the coordinator helping him?
Hey, Daryl.
Hey, Daryl.
Yeah, and here's an analogy I threw out. Like, to me, when you look at like Sky Moore, he is the wide receiver version of CEH, and Rashee Rice is the wide receiver version of Isaiah Pacheco.
I could see that. That's a good analogy.
I don't know. Go ahead, Gooch.
Is it time to consider Sky Moore a bust?
I wouldn't say
it's
that.
Still kind of early.
But I do think we probably use the same exact excuses that we gave CEH.
I could definitely see that.
Is Justin Watson or is Justin Ross gone?
I would say it's likely.
Damn.
Yeah, the story doesn't look like it doesn't look too pretty. So my guess is Goodell's going to make that decision, and then the Chiefs are, will follow his lead.
Well, now hang on. If he was honest and he doesn't do a Kareem Hunt,
Right.
he could
That's what it
probably
all
stay.
depends on.
Right. Like if he was straight up with him, because the Chiefs weren't going to let go of Kareem. That's why they suspended him for those games before they cut him, because they were just like, okay, you made a mistake, but you lied, and that's why you got cut. You know what I'm saying? If he's just straight up honest with him and goes, yeah, I got mad and I threw some things or whatever, not at the person, but I threw them. You know what I'm saying? Yada, yada, yada. I mean, he might be able to get a Tyreek deal out of it.
Yeah. I think what's working against him, though, is both Tyreek and Kareem had a lot of talent and they had the production to go with it. Justin has had nothing. And so, like you take a PR hit for someone who hasn't produced anything for you. I know that's not I know that's only one way to look at it, and I know that it's not necessarily a positive, or a good, even a way that feels good to even talk about it. But I mean, that's the reality of it. Is Kareem was extremely talented and productive for this team, and Tyreek was, as well. And Justin has done nothing, up to this point. But I still think it comes down to whatever Roger Goodell, I get what you're saying, Gooch, that you know, if he had been more productive, the Chiefs themselves would just suspend him and hope that Goodell, didn't levy a further suspension on there. But I mean, I personally don't see it going that way. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think the Chiefs let Goodell do his punishment, and then they'll go from there.
I think the kid has talent. I just don't think. I think just as I think just as Mahomes is figuring out how to use him, this thing comes out. My problem is after a win. I don't want to get too deep into it. I was just curious because I think that big body is what we're missing in the red zone. That Fortson type body. You know what I'm saying? And I think that would be helpful with the way our offense is going right now. That's the only reason why I brought it up. But I do, on the flip side of that, I want to say, how about Justin Watson? I mean, that
He's
boy's
got a
just,
highlight catch like every game.
yeah, for like the last 3 to 4 weeks.
He's
Like,
making a case of being a number one receiver.
I'm like,
Making a case. I'm not saying he's there.
yeah, but like, I'm at the point now, and maybe it'll happen after the bye.
And
Maybe like I said, they were using his first 9 weeks to kind of see everything, and then they're going to start rolling out the permanent. Like I really think at this point now, on the field to start with Kelsey should be Watson, Rice, and MVS. I mean, it's just like, and you have Rice doing your sort of Kelsey thing. You can have Justin running those intermediate routes. And since MVS seems like all he can do is run in a straight line now, he can be the deep guy. And then you still got Pacheco to run the ball or dump off to him and McKinnon, and Kelsey can do his thing.
I mean,
all MVS has been is just a distraction. He's taken the coverage up top.
He's been
been good for.
Disappointing $13 million for a year receiver. Yeah,
That's all I was gonna say.
yeah. I mean, coming off when he came here, the season he had, his last season in Green Bay gave me a lot of hope. I think one of the things I talked about at that point was since like 2019, Aaron Rodgers to MBS was like the second most deep touchdowns since Mahomes and Hill. So, I mean, I still see him getting held a lot, but I mean, even when he's not, you still got to get separation and you still got to make the catch when the ball gets thrown to you. So,
How much
I mean,
was Rodgers on his ass?
I would hope Mahomes, was too. I mean, this is probably your best last chance to really cash in, and the likelihood he's a Chief next year doesn't seem very high.
I think he was yelling at him to come back for the ball.
Speaking of which, since you said it, Keys, and it just kind of segued into what I was going to talk about, since we just kind of got onto a subject with the way that Karlaftis and Minihue and FAU and Dana and all of them are playing. What's the likelihood Jones is back next year?
I mean, I think I said preseason that I didn't see him back.
Keep in mind
anyway.
that Veach doesn't give contracts to people over 28, 29, and he'll be going into his year 30 season.
I think they try to put him on the tag and trade him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on Chris Jones, but and when I say that, I mean he's going to have to take the Chris Jones version of the Tyreek offer that Brett Veach gave Tyreek, or I mean, Orlando's different, but
that brings me into another one. Did you see Tyreek say that the only reason why he was gone was because his agent was trying to push the Chiefs into a contract and this, that, and the other? And yeah, like that guy's story has changed over why he left so much. And then he'll be like, but I got my money and I'm happy and this, that, and the other. Then why are you still trashing? And then you wanted to, I guess he told the reporter he wanted to have a big game so he could run by Andy Reid and yell, you shouldn't have traded me. And then you fumble.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. And you're right. I don't remember what my tweet was this last week, but I'll just say this. If there's anybody out there who needs a hat for their head, find Tyreek, because all he's got is cap right now.
Keys, I like that.
But he was talking like Andy was involved and Pat was involved. And they're not.
I think it's just motivation.
Other people's contracts.
One, I think it's motivation, and two, I think he just he talks for ratings and attention. It's like Skip Bayless or Mike Florio. Say stupid stuff, get people tuning in, get people sharing, get people talking about the stupid stuff you said.
I refuse to watch them.
But I still think part of it is motivation. I mean, how many times have you seen Tom Brady take something and find an insult in there just to motivate him for a Super Bowl? I mean, I think it's just something similar.
Jordan did that.
Or maybe Tyreek's just such a big liar that he's convinced himself that what he thinks happened is what happened. And so
Jordan got the whole team convinced that somebody said something, and so they were all playing hard as hell, and then he's like, yeah, they never said anything. Like, you asshole. But if it worked, what can you do?
Man. Every Michael Jordan story you hear is pretty much a really good story.
That came from him too.
Yeah.
The kicker is he was already motivated. He just needed something to give him that edge. That's why, he would kill in today's NBA because everybody's friends, and Michael Jordan he wasn't even friends with his own friends on the court. You know what I'm saying? There was a viciousness to him. I miss those days. I'm gonna stop talking. Yeah. It's a bye week, so we can just ramble.
Sorry I brought it up.
It's all good, brother.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna say he would kill in today's league because he knows how to play defense, but
That too,
um
for sure.
That too. Yeah. Yeah.
oh, I don't know. Like
He'd have so many freaking steals, it'd be ridiculous.
yeah,
And then dunks on top of it.
it's crazy. I made my kids just a couple weeks ago. I started to put on Space Jam for them, the real one, the genuine, the OG one. And then I'm like, wait a minute.
Brownie shake.
And I'm like, wait a minute. You guys got to see who Michael Jordan was before you watch Space Jam. So then we went through like 30 minutes of highlights, including his defense, his, all of his dunks, his free throw line dunk, all of his steals, like everything. And it's like, okay, now you guys are prepared to watch Space Jam.
Dunking on 7-footers on a regular basis.
Two guys at once.
Mutombo's like, you haven't done that to me. Okay, you just asked for it. And then he does a finger wag in Mutombo's face.
And it's just great though, because you get like the dunk he had on a missed free throw, right? And it's like he's coming from the top of the key. And so we watch the play. I rewind it. My oldest daughter is 13. I'm like, watch this again. She played basketball.
That is probably my favorite play.
And she's short. I don't know how short she is, but she's short. She was always the shortest on her team. She was also the person that the coach highlighted because she would still out rebound all the rest of her teammates because she had the desire. But I'm like, here, let's rewatch this so you can see. Notice where he's at. He's all the way back there. Because it's like those plays. It's like
Jordan wasn't big.
You get people who want to make their comparisons of who the GOAT is in basketball, and you look at someone like Tom Brady, and if you can look at just rings, but Jordan isn't rings. You can look at Mahomes, and you can see the Mahomes athletically, physically can do all kinds of things that Tom Brady could never do, right? Michael Jordan was both of those, right? He was Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes in one person. He could physically do insane stuff like that, and he still got the rings.
I hate to cut you guys off, but Hannah's talking to my inner fat kid with her brownie shake, and
I was about to say something.
Their promo on prime rib. I'm like,
she's trying to make you hungry.
Right, my mouth is watering over here, and I'm like, man, prime rib, that's the good stuff, dude. Like,
yeah, you
Liz
have to get
made
your private jet
Alfredo earlier, so I'm stuffed.
Oh yeah. So I mean, we do have the bye week this week.
Take a brownie shake though.
Yeah, she came home with an apple pie shake the other night. I said, "Where's this at on the menu?" She said, "It's not on there." I just got bored. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that on the air, but anyway,
it's all right. We all used to work at somewhere fast food, made our own stuff, and on the menu. I mean, so anybody that says they haven't is lying, because we've all been like, I wonder what happened if I did this.
Quesadilla at Sonic.
Oh yeah.
Taught my buddy how to make it so he could make me one and make himself whatever.
Yeah, for me it was dessert pizzas from Pizza Ranch. Went to Walmart and like I asked the manager. He's like, "Yeah, go ahead." I went, assistant manager on duty. Got Oreos, M&Ms, and stuff. And I don't know if anyone out there's had Pizza Ranch's dessert pizzas, but we made completely different one. Like we had crushed Oreos on there, we had M&Ms on there, we had chocolate syrup on there.
The cinnamon one's pretty good.
Like we were just 3 or 4 different ones, and we were just experimenting on those suckers.
I'll tell you what,
Oh yeah.
the apple dessert pizza from Pizza Ranch is fire.
The chicken is good too. Like, I'll say this, like, of all the places that I've worked in fast food, like Walmart was the worst because everything came packaged. It was stick it in a deep fryer, cut open a sauce packet, bam. Pizza Ranch was like the most from scratch stuff of any of the place that I worked. And that chicken was all from scratch. It didn't come, like it wasn't breaded pre-bagged. It was all done in store. So
That's pretty cool. We did onion rings from scratch. All right. Off of food, where are we going next? Thanks, Hannah.
Yeah, if you talk it, you got to cook it. So I'm expecting some brownie shake later. But
She made a brownie shake for her.
I'm looking on. I mean, all right, it does say A. Yeah, she won't eat the whole thing though.
The
You
Back
think?
Bros have delved into chaos. We went from all the basketball to food. You guys are seeing the breakdown of us right now.
Hey, listen, well-trained athletes need to consume a lot of calories during football season. We
What do
are
you call
well-trained.
somebody that used to be an athlete and now has a sprained ankle stepping off his retaining wall?
I said we are well-trained. I didn't say we're athletes
I
anymore.
used to be. I can't pull it off anymore, evidently. Just trying to avoid stepping on a puppy, and yeah, plumbers screwed my lawn up, so I stepped into some kind of divot.
Plumber's crack.
Went sideways. You could say that. It's pretty much what it looks like in the middle of my yard.
What is your guys' key? What is the one thing that you will be looking for most coming out of the bye? Like improvement from what? Like receivers, offensive line? What?
I'm okay with the offensive line. I haven't noticed much other than the blitz is not completely being picked up this last game. So yeah, I'd have to say receivers actually
Gooch?
catching the ball.
Stop texting my wife food orders, Gooch. He unmuted just to laugh. All right. He's back.
It's kind of threefold for me. I'd like to see more use of the running game because I think Pacheco can wear down a defense if you give him enough touches. Sometimes we forget as fans, at least me, until we were just sitting there talking about it, while I was busy bitching about the tackles. They are brand new, and they've only really played, aside from Creed, Trey, and Tooney, the tackles have only played with Mahomes for 9 games. And so I think that'll kind of get better as the season goes along. And I'd also like to see more consistency from the receivers. Like, it doesn't have to be, they get more separation than people think they do. I think the problem is that when the plays are going bad, the first thing we're quick to blame is the receiver, saying they can't get separation, but there's a lot of plays where they are, and they're just not getting the ball their way. Because Mahomes is reading the defense fast, and so if you're not open within the first second or so, he's already moved on. And they might be getting open right after that. So I think their average separation is really about 3 yards or so when they've looked at the tapes and stuff. So it's not anything drastic. I just think we're noticing it more because the offense isn't averaging 30 something a game.
Right.
But that's it. Like to see more targets going to the wide receivers, more consistency from them, especially Sky, who's had almost 30 targets and like 13 receptions or whatever. Like he's just not catching it. You know, and I think we should run the ball more. I'd really like to see Mahomes not play so scared. And I know that's a weird thing to say because it's Mahomes, but I think sometimes maybe it is the trust that Aaron was talking about, but sometimes our receivers do have one step and he won't chuck the ball like he used to even give them a shot at it. But that comes with, obviously mastering the game. Defense is playing more further back to kind of keep the deep shots in check. And so he's glancing and then trying to take what the defense is really giving him. But at some point, you can't wait till 3rd and 10 or late in the game when you really need to score and start trying to take shots. I personally think you should take 1 or 2 shots every quarter. Keep them soft,
I like that.
That's mine.
Yeah. I think that for me, it's really going to be the wide receiver usage. And I think it kind of goes back to something you mentioned, Gooch. I think you talked about it. Like, there's kind of been this expectation that Andy with the receivers will be like typically how Spags has been with his defense, experimenting, and then making, big adjustments during the bye week. And like everything up to the bye week has been like fact gathering exercises. And then he puts all of his work together and then makes his defense built around that. We're kind of expecting that, or at least we're hoping to see that with the receivers, where they've been kind of experimenting and trying to figure out who can do what, and maybe even how the defense will react to all of that.
I bet, Hannah.
And I hope I'm not giving them too much credit in saying that, but I don't know. I think that's a big one. But going back to what you said, Gooch, I think we need to see more of the small things, right? Like, how often are we seeing Pat with the hard count like we used to? When's the last time you saw Pat pump fake a defender? Like there's all these small things, and sometimes whether it's a RPO or straight up play action, like sometimes he does a great job, with the play fake. And then other times, like he leaves a lot to be desired. But if if you look at the Brady's and the Mannings, like it was a high level of execution every time. Like those guys were great at hiding the ball on a play action. And it's like there are little things to this game that we should be getting better at, and Pat himself should be looking for every little thing, because when you put it all together,
that does seem like a lost art,
a huge force multiplier, right? Like I don't even know how much Pat is looking off defenders this year compared to previous years, but he sure doesn't pump fake. Like all it takes is think about it. All right. Because one of the counter arguments, Gooch, I know people will make to you is like players are open too late. And so it's like when you watch the film and you see the defense like giving guys separation, is because they're watching Mahomes and they're keying on Travis or whatever, or they're readying for the pass. Well, And you can see that on, you can see on film sometimes as well, like, the numerous plays where Travis had 3 defenders on him. Okay. What does a pump fake to Travis do to basically every other defender? Like, why is that not something that we're taking advantage of? And like, it doesn't matter if the defense eventually keys off on it, because either way, you make them make a decision where they're screwed. But instead, we're letting every defense dictate what our offense does instead of the other way around. Like, our offense is on the defensive way too much. And that's something that's kind of irritating, right?
Yeah.
I mean, another thing that I've heard people talk about is they will game plan, expecting to see a bunch of zone, and the defensive coordinator will come out and throw a bunch of man, or vice versa. And there's some merit to that. Like Vance Joseph, I want to say Brian Flores, maybe a couple other ones that we've already faced this season. Almost did the complete opposite of what they had done in every other game as far as man or zone percentage when they played the Chiefs. And it's like, I think we talked about this last week, how, as fans, we kind of have this Madden mindset that you have the whole playbook there, right? But that's not how it works every week. Part of the game plan is picking, 4 or 5 2nd and 5 plays, a half a dozen, 3rd and long plays, a half a dozen 3rd and long plays inside your own 10, a half a dozen 3rd and long plays in the red zone. And, your play call sheet is broken up into all these little sections, but you don't have a playbook. Right. You don't have a playbook like in Madden where you can flip through every play in every formation in the whole playbook. They don't do that. They pick the plays for the specific game plan in the game, what they think they're going to get. And I think this goes back to something Gooch said earlier about the game plan that I wasn't really thinking about, but they keep expecting that they're going to see one coverage and the defensive coordinator showing a different coverage. And it kind of goes back to something, and maybe they're holding back. Some people think that Andy's kind of sandbagging it, because the defense is good and they're figuring the things out on the offense and they don't want to reveal too much, which, we hear that every year. And we hope it's true, but I think at the end of the day, if it's not true, you would hope, right? And I know that there's plenty of staples in the West Coast offense that, over the years, Andy has enough plays that have both man beaters in them and zone beaters built into the same play. Like, this half of the field is for man of the play. This half of the field of the play is for zone. And it's like, why are we not adding more of those plays in? Maybe they are holding them back, but those plays exist. And I think that's probably one of the biggest frustrations in it. And one of the things that, so when Gooch says, well, what if it's really the game planning and the play calling we're seeing throughout the rest of the game, because of that, like, your scripted plays are trying to figure out the defensive rules and everything. But overall, your game plan, you're expecting to see, mostly zone or mostly man.
All right, let me touch.
I just have one more thing to hit as far as what I'd like to see in the second half of the season, and that's Reed not going for hits as much. He needs to pay attention to the ball. I think he'd have like 3 or 4 turnovers if he was not concentrating on hitting the guy as hard as he could.
He's trying to get snot bubbles, baby. He's trying to get snot bubbles.
I appreciate that.
First, I want to put out there, hey, Hannah, I bet your shakes are great. And then Daryl, I agree. I was saying that like 3 starters, they're going to regulate. And I wouldn't say Andy sandbagging, they never kept 7 receivers. And the 7 receivers before Russ has been put on the exempt list, they all did something different. And so I think maybe not sandbagging, but trying to figure out what would give the Chiefs the best chance to win. And then he's going to start trotting out the regulars and doing just that. Like, he already knew what he had in Watson. He already knows what he has in MVS. Kadarius Toney was a wild card. Sky is still a wild card. And I think he was trying to figure that thing out and seeing how they were going to blend with Mahomes or how it was going to get worked. And I think Rasheed is the only one that's kind of stepped out front and center out of that group. And so this is where I think, like, the bye week, he's going to start settling in. And then you're going to have your guys. And then I really think, like you and I talked about a couple weeks ago, where Tony's not going to be the number one, maybe not this year, and he's just going to be like Tyreek was Tyreek's first couple years, where it's going to be in the backfield and all those kind of things to try and utilize him to get into open space. See, you're going to quit teasing me with that. All I have is delicious. This is a sports channel, guys. I swear it is. It is not.
It's an everything channel.
That's just my opinion, Keys. I was just throwing it out there because, I mean, what you said obviously makes a whole lot of sense. I was just like, well, maybe he's not sandbagging, because if you notice, like, everybody's snaps are almost the same. They're really kind of close. And that's just like, I think, rotating too much, trying to figure it out. And so Mahomes can't get a rhythm with them either. And I think that'll all settle down after the bye. Because once we get in the home stretch, like we're not even thinking about the fact that, okay, we're 7-2. We've got the Eagles. We've got the Bills. We've got the Bengals. You know what I'm saying? Still, on the schedule.
I think it could be McCole instead of MVS, possibly.
Could be. McCole has spurts where he's great.
Mm-hmm.
But then he has a whole bunch of spurts where he doesn't run out his route completely, or he slows up, or his hands become just for decoration. Or, you know what I'm
fumbles
saying?
on a punt return.
You got to keep them looking good for the Christmas tree. Yeah, like I said earlier, I think it's probably a combination of things, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of, we're talking about things we want to see coming out of the bye, and I think that's gonna have to be something we see so we know what it is. Is it this? Is it that? What have they worked on? What does the offense look like moving forward after they have time to work on it? And I'll be interested to see how much they recycle last year's game plan for the Eagles game, but that's a totally different topic. But yeah, I'm gonna have to put in a food order at this rate.
Right? Like, she's killing me. And then her double entendres, all my shakes are delicious. That's all right.
She's cracking me up.
All of a sudden, one day there's going to be a knock on your door and be like, where's the food at?
Well, at least this show, we're not getting a bunch of Taylor Swift lyrics. So there's that.
That's because the devil herself is either in bed or she's decided to leave Aaron alone for the night.
She made dinner. She's tired. She could be sleeping by now.
She made dinner?
Yeah.
Did you give it to the cat first to test it?
No. I dug right in.
She's pretty eat. So if we don't hear from Aaron next week, guys, Liz made dinner tonight.
Definitely keep that in mind.
And we need an autopsy done. Stat. Hannah says the food's at work. See, I would be. Hen, are you old enough for the Blues Brothers? The original?
I was like, what, 84, 83?
Shut up, Keith. So I would be. That would be
80?
me. I would be in the middle of your restaurant, making a scene, asking where the food is, tapping customers, like how much for your women.
That would be you. The women.
Oh, welcome to the BAK channel, guys. Hope you're enjoying your time here.
So what do you think?
This isn't just for the show. We are like this in group chat too. Like we text, "This is us." Like this is.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Daryl's comment here? We need 3 receivers as starters so they can get on the same page as Mahomes.
That's what I was saying.
We did hit on that. Yeah.
I'm with Daryl. Daryl, I'm with you.
I mean, I guess I could argue both sides of it. Like, why aren't we still getting that work? Regardless. Like, you got practice, you got after practice. I mean, you have what? Mahomes has 25-yard football field. Is that what it is? Like
50.
I mean, 50? Yeah. So I mean, why can't you be doing more? And why, if our receivers are having such a difficult time against zone, we have one of the best defenses in the NFL. Like, why aren't those boys going up against the dogs on defense and they should just have a whole day where Andy's like, you guys aren't leaving until you score a few touchdowns on this defense. Until you have 2 sustained drives. Like, I'm not arguing against what Daryl's saying. I'm just saying, like, it seems like there should be other ways as well, as opposed to just saying, hey, these are the 3 starters. But so let me ask you this, though. If we had 3 starters as wide receivers, who would those 3 wide receivers be? Who would your guys' preference be for those starters? 3 guys starting together. Who are they?
MVS, Rice, and Watson.
Rice, Watson, and McCole.
And see, at this point, I think I would go Rice, maybe Watson. If there was a totally different version of Sky Moore that's closer to what people, I'm getting distracted. She's texting me food.
You kind of asked for that.
What people were expecting? No, she's like, she's asking me for my food request.
You were talking about
Snap. I got one. Do I need to text? Do I need to text you too?
Yeah,
I got a food request.
I'd say so.
Yep, we'll put it in the mail. If Sky was anything close to what we were expecting, that would be one thing. I would go Rice, Sky, and Tony, but because we haven't seen that from him, I think I would go Watson, Rice, and Tony. Like, I think that would be my 3. Watson, Rice, and Tony. I think so for sure. I think we all said Rice, right?
Rice and Watson.
So, I mean, I think we would all agree on Rice 100%, like across the line there. It's just, did we all say Watson?
Yes.
Gooch, did you say Watson?
Sure did.
All right. So, I mean, it sounds like we're agreed on Rice and Watson. So it's just a matter of who the third receiver is there. Like, again, though, I mean, I think preferably, moving forward, Sky would, take Watson's place. Like, I think that's what if you got anywhere close to your ideal version of each of those guys, right? You want Rice and Moore and Tony out there, right? Like we're not talking about where they're at right now in terms of Sky Moore, but ideally, if he could be what we hoped he would be, what people think he could be, and if Tony could stay healthy, I think those are the three that you would prefer to have out there. Would be Rice and Tony and Moore. But
I would like to see him hold on to a ball through contact, though.
Yeah.
Because I see him drop it every time. Except for
the
once
thing,
this last game.
The thing we heard from Dan is that Kadarius Toney's floor and ceiling is high. His house is probably high.
He got a hold of Kadarius Toney, I'd say. That's where it's all going.
Oh man. Texting me about pumpkin muffins.
Pumpkin spice. It's that time of year, huh?
Hey, they have some they don't have them all the time, but they have some Boston cream muffins. Gooch, have you ever gotten their Boston cream muffins?
I have not. And I like to eat Boston cream muffins.
I think you can order them. I don't know, Hannah, you'll have to let us know if you're still listening, if they can be ordered from each store. Like, she brought some home last week. They haven't had any since whenever she's been there. But man, those things were the bite or two I got out of it before the whole bag fell on the floor was delicious. Hey, Maui. Maui says, did you guys something the George Picken tweets? Anyone still wish KC drafted him instead of Sky? I guess it's like C.
I had
heard about.
What did he do? He scrubbed the Steelers from all his social media and put a post on there that said either free me or whatever like that. But that's just but I think it's just because he realizes Pickett isn't good. Hey, Melly, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard kind of like out on the periphery. I heard or saw stuff about that. I didn't see the all the stuff itself. I mean, one, it's not surprising. I mean, the Steelers have a way of finding good receivers, and each one of them kind of comes with their own headache. As far as the second part of it, anyone still wish that KC drafted him instead of Sky? I don't remember if you guys high on him.
I was.
I mean, I wasn't high on either one of them. Like, he wasn't on my board because of that incident that he had back in high school. Like, yeah, he I think I'm remembering the right receiver here. He beat up an autistic kid in high school or something.
Oh, wow.
So I took him completely off of my board.
Yeah, I would have too.
And I wasn't thrilled with the Sky pick, Maui. So neither one apply to me. So my guy was Christian Watson. Listen, I have a little bit of Al Davis in me, so I like tall receivers with speed, especially after Megatron blew up in Detroit.
Al Davis is not an analogy to use. What is wrong with you?
I don't know. I mean, he had a couple moments, right? Just like Mark Davis has had a couple moments. Like that story about how he fired Josh McDaniels. I hope it's
If that's
true.
true, yeah.
If that
That's
is
the second
true,
time I've heard that, though. He
if it's
fired
true,
somebody else the same way.
if it's true though, I mean that's you got to give him a little prop there. That's
Pretty hilarious.
yeah.
Is one of the ugliest human beings I've ever seen.
Yeah. Dan was like talking about on a show last night who could replace Josh McDaniels next year, and someone was like bringing up Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions, and it was like which would be a better job for him.
Give Antonio Brown a shot.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Let Antonio Brown coach the Raiders.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
If there's one guy you shouldn't let have a shot, though, it's Plaxico Burress.
Well, I guess that'd be all right. Every
Why
couple
not?
weeks, they'd have a manic episode and not show up to the game, so it'd be a guaranteed win.
But one of the things I said was, they were like in the chat talking about which job would be better. Raiders job, Chargers job, and I think maybe it was Giants or
Oh man, this is perfect. Jesus, talking, I can't hear.
Bills or something. Can't hear me, Coach?
What are you saying?
I think Keys is muted. I can hear you.
No, I hear him just fine.
Gooch is hanging out with Kadarius Toney, apparently. But one of the things I said for everyone except for Gooch, apparently.
He's smiling so damn big.
That's funny. No, I'm smiling like that because I'm thinking about the comment, which was I said, could you imagine having to go in to work every day and seeing Mark Davis with that ridiculous haircut and trying not to laugh in his face?
I couldn't do it.
I couldn't do it either. That's what I was laughing about.
I may even throw up.
Can you hear me now, Gooch?
Yeah.
I couldn't look straight at the guy.
It was probably the last phone call I got. It threw off my
No, what I was smiling about, Gooch, is I was like, imagine whoever takes the Raiders job, like, how desirable is that job? Because you got to be able to go in every day and look at Mark Davis with that ridiculous haircut and not just laugh in his face.
I couldn't look at him, bro. Like I'd have to look down as I walk by and just like, how you doing? And just keep going.
I'm sure he's a great guy, and I don't know. Like, my psychological profile is he's afraid of rejection, so he has that haircut so that he can blame any rejection on that haircut instead of anything wrong with it.
And here's the thing. It might be a desirable job if you think about it, because between Gruden and McDaniels, he still has to pay $85 million. So you could take the Raiders job, get a really good contract, and know that you're still going to get paid if you get fired. I mean, there's, coach for 6 to 8 games, go 3 and 5, get fired, and sit at home for the rest of the year and make your money.
On the flip side, he doesn't have much money left.
That's true.
What was it, Aaron?
So not only can none of us look him in the face, we can't even take a job.
Yeah, I mean, Gooch, I think the only thing wrong with your strategy is that he doesn't have any money left. Like,
he doesn't know how to spend it.
I think you're going to have to, go back to like Antonio Pierce or go back to Rich Bisaccia, the interim coach before they hired McDaniels. Bring someone in who's like, well, maybe that's where you get EB. Maybe EB gets his head coaching job, but he has to take a huge, huge, huge financial reduction. I don't know. I get what you're saying though, as far as the payout, but I think that kind of hurts their ability to pay someone else in the future, because the Raiders aren't known as having a good chunk of money to fall back on. Maui says, and the Steelers won the game. Since you brought up the Steelers, I threw this out on Dan's channel last night. I know it's not going to happen, but I threw the Steelers out as a perfect offensive match for Eric Bieniemy as offensive coordinator. Like, if you were to pick what team he was offensive coordinator of, I think the Steelers are actually a really good fit for his personality and what he wants to do on offense.
Definitely his personality.
Like, you take Darnell Washington, Najee Harris. You take those guys and play some smash mouth football, some play action. I don't know how you feel about Kenny Pickett. It sounds like we're pretty much in agreement on him, but I think we're also in a different position as Chiefs fans to where, we're biased in kind of knowing you need a quarterback with kind of an it factor in today's NFL and being able to kind of identify fairly quickly whether a quarterback kind of has that it factor or not.
Now that you've said something, is it just me, or would that be a scary freaking team, Tomlin and the enemy together?
Right?
I'd go against them.
Like, that's really good. Like, I didn't even think about the Steelers as, like, for the enemy's makeup and demeanor, and Tomlin is about the same. That team would be hard. No, I mean, the Steelers generally are. Tomlin's teams aren't weak. But, man, Tomlin's a defensive guy. So his defense is already. But can you imagine somebody like Tomlin on the offensive side of the ball? That'd be
right.
How many
Matt
players
Canada's
would be able to play for him?
Matt Canada is a joke. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful to. Listen, you're an offensive coordinator in the NFL. You've obviously put in way more work than me, and you know way more than I do. But he's not the answer with the Steelers, and it won't happen either way. But I mean, that's just the reality. Like, you take those two guys and you put them together, right? I think it's one hell of a combo. It's one hell of a strong combo in the NFL. And you already have a team that's 5-3?
yeah.
With Matt Canada as your offensive coordinator. And, it's kind of a joke. Well, is there anything you guys wanted to talk about that you want to hit really quick before we head out?
I'm good.
Coach?
Nah, I think I'm all right.
All right. Well, if no one else in the chat has anything for us really quick.
Anna needs your food order, I think.
No, I told her what I wanted.
I don't think it'd make it down here in time for me to enjoy it. I just have to wait till I come see them.
If it made it out of my house. All right. Well, Gooch.
Oh man, it's good to be back for a second week in a row, especially with Double A. Like, we've been blessed recently with the kids' presents. Appreciate you guys checking us out, whether religiously or in passing. It's been a great time. Chiefs are doing well. 7-2 with the offense needing to figure it out with the best quarterback in the league. and one of the best offensive minds ever. I'm not worried. It's going to be a fun second half of the season. We'll be back next week, as always. Tell somebody you love them. It was a great night. I appreciate my two boys. You know what time it is. Hit the theme music.
I didn't have the theme music ready. I was too busy laughing. All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're not a subscriber yet, and leave us a comment.
Aloha.
We'll be back.
You got your team, and we got a kingdom. Ready for war, we score at will. We're the Super Bowl champs, the king of the hill.